What a bummer. Okay, we're back live again. I don't know what happened. We're using this new app, and the whole thing just closed on us. There's Hal. Let's see if this works here. Hey, can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Hold on here.
Yeah.
All right, can you hear us now?
Yeah.
Yeah, something happened right before you called. The whole show went tits up, and it just closed.
You literally blew up our show.
You crashed the whole
server.
It
knew. Actually, when I went back to the Spreaker app, your show's replaying from the beginning.
Yeah, it totally shut down, and we had to start it off. I had to restart it again and call it take two. Not only that, you sound like you're underwater now.
Oh, really?
Oh, there, that's better now.
Okay.
So this is the Hal Hour.
Yeah.
So it's all you. You have the floor. It's time to, pop this top off. You've been, chomping at the bit for a couple weeks now, wanting to call in and talk with us. So what's your take on our Chargers?
Okay, well, let me start off with the defense, just because Justin was talking about the defense and how disappointed he's been in with the defense, I should say. The defense, from my perspective, isn't a defense that's going to win you games. It's a defense that's going to keep you in the games. So, the team, Telesco, it seems like they've put a lot of effort and focus on the offense. So we don't have a ton of pieces. We don't have a dominant defense. So expecting the defense to win you games is just, you're asking too much. I think if the defense keeps you in the game and gives your offense a chance to win games just because of the amount of talent that's on the offense versus the amount of talent that's on the defense, is all you can ask of that defense. I think if the defense can keep the opposing team scoring no more than 24 points, you would think our offense, with all the weapons on there, should be able to outscore any other team, irregardless of the defense, except maybe, like a Seahawks or, a Denver Broncos where it's a total dominant defense. But we don't have a ton of game changers on defense, and I just think it's a little unfair to expect this defense, the way it's built, to be the ones to win you games. I just don't see it happening. There's just too many holes, especially up front. It's just not going to happen. I'm with Jason. They've played well enough. I don't think they've played great, but I think they've played well enough, and that's my opinion on the defense, You don't expect Phillip Rivers and company not to be able to outscore. What was the final score on that Steelers game? 20?
24-20.
Steelers, right? So,
24-20.
Exactly. So you should be able to outscore them at that point. It wasn't like they scored 30, 40 points on you. They kept the game winnable. So that's just my take on the defense. So now let's go to my biggest issue, which is Phillip Rivers. So for me, Rivers is a very good quarterback, but he's not a great quarterback. And for me, his body language on the field drives me nuts. And I'll tell you why exactly, just in detail. Like, I know a lot of people just go, he's emotional, and it's a vague, description of what it is exactly about it that is a problem. So when he throws his hands up a lot, right, and you see a lot of emotion and body language that's negative. So when he turns to the coaches or the sideline and he throws his hands up in the air, like, what are we doing, right? To me, you're undermining your coaches when you do that. He does it when the ball's given to Melvin Gordon. Melvin Gordon gets 1 yard. He'll turn to sometimes he'll throw his arms in the air, and you'll see frustration coming out of him, and you're undermining your running back. When you throw the ball to Keenan Allen, and he probably should have caught the ball, but he didn't use two hands, and then your body language goes, Keenan, what are you doing? Use two hands. You're undermining your teammate. Same thing with just the game against the Steelers. When you throw an interception, and maybe it was Floyd's fault. Maybe there was a miscommunication. But when body language says, Floyd, you should have cut, what are you doing? Where are you going? You're undermining your teammates. I just don't think that's a sign of a leader. How do you expect this team to follow you and to excel if you're constantly undermining your teammates, your coaches? I just think it's not a good sign of a leader. It's the opposite of that.
Well, let me answer to a couple of those things there, Hal.
Okay.
The first thing is, of course, let me be honest. If Philip Rivers was the quarterback of the Chiefs or the Broncos, I would absolutely hate him. And all of those things that you talked about would be things that I point out. He's my quarterback. He's the quarterback of the team that I like. So when I see stuff like that, I love it. I love the fire. And when you can take the opposite side of the spectrum, and you could look at a guy like Jay Cutler, who, people talk about his body language. He looks like he's out there and he's just always moping and pouting, and it almost looks like he doesn't care and doesn't even want to be there. Now, that's body language. That does not mean that's the way he feels. I'm just saying those are the ways that he's been described.
Right. No, I agree with you. Cutler is one end of the spectrum, right? The very far end of the negative spectrum, right?
Uh-huh.
And then Rivers is the complete opposite end of the spectrum, right? He is just so over the top. Of all the quarterbacks, you pick the perfect quarterback, right? You got Cutler on one end of the spectrum, right?
Uh-huh.
And then you got Rivers compared to everybody else on the far other end of the spectrum.
Right.
He needs to find some balance and be in the middle somewhere.
Okay.
You know what I mean? He's a father of 8. He's 33 years old. The way he behaves on that field just doesn't show a mature leader to me. I just don't see it. I always thought he was going to grow out of that, and he just never has. And I honestly thought when McCoy came in to take over the team, because North Turner, he was just so passive,
Mm-hmm.
It gave me the impression that Rivers just overpowers him. Rivers' personality is just so overpowering that it takes over Norv. So when McCoy came in, I'm like, wow, this is a really stern guy. He seems like he has a presence about him. So I was hoping that McCoy was going to actually help Rivers mature and be calm. And I don't want him to be like Jay Cutler, or, you know what I mean, or totally passive. I appreciate passion, but at the same time, you can't undermine your entire team, from the coaching staff to the running to your receivers. You know what I mean?
Right.
Don't call out players. You're basically calling out players. You're saying that was your fault. That wasn't my fault. That was your fault. A lot of fans hate Keenan Allen because he's a diva, right? He attracts a lot of attention to himself, which is a turnoff. Well, for me, Philip Rivers does the same thing. He brings a lot of attention to himself, and in my opinion, he makes it about himself, and it's not a good thing. You know what I mean? Just to play, whatever happened. Get back to your team. If you want to call somebody out, do it on the sideline. Pull them aside. You know what I mean? Don't do it on the field with every fan watching. The cameras, all the cameras are on you. Everybody sees what you're doing. It's got to have an effect on your teammates, and I think some players may respond to it in a positive way, mm-hmm. but I think also some players respond to it in a negative way.
Yeah, I look at that and I like the passion. All those things you were saying, like I said, I like, and it's funny because when I hear you describing all that, it reminds me of a quarterback. I'm not sure how old you are, Hal, but I'm sure you remember seeing Dan Marino's career, and
right.
All of those things that you're saying remind me from an outsider's view of what I used to think of Dan Marino, because when I watched Dan Marino out there, I saw all those things, and those were a lot of the things that I did not like about him. Now, once again, if Dan Marino was the quarterback of the San Diego Chargers, my thoughts might be a little bit different on that. But
right. I'm all for the go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just saying I like the passion. I just think that it's I don't. The way that you're describing it almost makes it look like it's a selfish thing, and I think that
it is.
I think it's more along the lines he just wants to win so bad, and I honestly don't think that I honestly think that if Phillip Rivers threw for 25 yards and we won, he could care less. And to me, a selfish quarterback is somebody out there who's looking to to make sure that he's doing good. And I really don't believe that about Phillip Rivers. I don't think that he's a selfish quarterback. I just think that he wants to win so badly, and he tries to play so perfectly, but he has high expectations of his teammates too, and maybe his expectations are a little bit too high for them.
I will disagree with you that, maybe selfish isn't a perfect description of him, but he certainly doesn't trust his teammates, and that's the feel you get. At some point in your growth as a quarterback, you have to learn that you can't do it all by yourself. You're not going to win every game all alone. You have to, at some point, trust in your teammates, trust in your coaching staff, and trust that the people around you are going to either help you win the game or when things aren't working for you, because whether a defense is planning that you're going to be throwing a lot, that they're going to win the game for you. You have to be able to trust the people around you. You're never going to be able to get over the hump and become that elite quarterback everybody wants to label him as if you don't allow other players around you to get you over that hump. And I just don't ever see that from Phillip. I'll bring up a good point. So did you guys hear the Hardwick interview that he did with the Loose Cannons, when Steve Hartman asked Hardwick, what is the deal? Like, are we going to be able to see, Gordon, be the feature player for a game? Is it going to be a game designed around Gordon versus the pass game? And Hardwick basically said, this is Phillip Rivers' team, and Gordon's just going to have to wait his turn. And that's just the way it is. And my jaw dropped. I'm like, what do you mean he's got to wait his turn? Like, why did we draft this guy that supposedly is supposed to be a game changer? You know what I mean? Literally change the game if you're not going to use him. I mean, it does. Like, what are we waiting for next year? Is that what we're doing?
One of the things that we talked about at the beginning of the season, and one of the things that you might be right about the trust thing, is there are players that do earn Phillip's trust, but I think there are some players that he just flat out doesn't trust. And I think that if he had to go out there and we have 3 minutes to drive from the 20 and we need to get 80 yards for a touchdown, there's no chance that he's going to want Gordon in the game. He's going to want Danny Woodhead out there because he trusts Danny and he doesn't trust Gordon. And throughout the season, we've seen Gordon get a little bit more time in that quick hurry-up offense, but ultimately, I think Rivers does go with who he trusts more and who he's more comfortable with, and that might hold back the development of some of these players. But ultimately, you can look at it another way too, and he's not thinking about developing players. He's thinking about winning. And in his mind, he's going to throw it to the guys that he trusts. And we talk about, that pass that was intercepted over the middle that Floyd may or may not have run the right pattern and stuff, and he was upset and he was talking at him. But ultimately, he trusts Malcolm Floyd, and that's not going to deter him from going back to him. But maybe you do have a point there about the whole trust thing, and maybe he doesn't trust all of his teammates.
I think he's being unfair to, if he is, hey, let me use, because Woodhead is dominantly a pass receiver, isn't he? You don't see Woodhead get the ball on a hand. He does, but dominantly it's a screen pass. I mean, that goes back to the selfish thing. Like, would he, if he's successful, so is Rivers. I mean, he's throwing him the ball. He isn't handing off the ball to him.
Right.
I mean, like at what point the Bengals game, that was a perfect game to, in my opinion, for Gordon to have the opportunity to have a breakout game. He was performing well, and he was eating up yards, and he looked great. And all of a sudden, we don't use him. We go to the pass. That in the Bengals game, that when we went for the touchdown, and it looked like to me, I'm not an X and O guys, but this is just from me being extra critical of Phillip Rivers. I see him lining up to go for the 2-point conversion, and he's got Gordon in there, and then he does the audible thing, and he leans over, he tells Gordon the new play, and then instead of handing the ball, and I could have sworn, I'm like, here we go, here comes Gordon's first score of his career, and instead of giving the ball to Gordon and trusting him to get in there, we end up passing the ball to Keenan at the line of scrimmage, and Keenan got gobbled up by 2 defenders. I mean, it wasn't even close. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me. Like, we brought this guy in here for these short yard situations, and we don't utilize it. It doesn't make any sense.
Oh, Hal, and that's kind of what I was getting with Jake towards the end of his segment, is the fact that we need to get back to, running the ball and our passing game being built off of the running game. We were extremely successful in the past. Our big winning streaks were built around the running game, and the running game opened up the passing game. Right now, I think we're getting away from the run too soon. We're getting away from our game plan too soon, and we're relying on Phillip Rivers, which is fine because he's, Phillip Rivers is an elite quarterback, and he's going to win a lot of games with his arm. But if you want consistency and you want this team to, get back in the mix, they're going to need to focus on getting Melvin Gordon the ball on a more regular basis and let him carry some of this offense.
I'm all for passing the ball when it's working. And when it's not working and the run game is working, run the ball. You have to be able. How much of it is those audibles is Phillip Rivers deciding whether they run the ball or pass it? What do you guys think? You guys know football much better than I do.
I think Phillip Rivers controls that offense a lot.
Yeah, I think he has the option to run or pass on every single down. And
so he probably gets an option of 2, 3, let's say 4 plays maximum, right? Mm-hmm. Between running and passing. He goes up there, he calls an audible, right?
Right.
And then more often than not, he's passing the ball. I mean, that goes back to the whole trust factor. At what point do you go, I'm going to trust this kid, I'm going to give him an opportunity to make mistakes and learn from those mistakes so he can. I mean, if he's controlling that offense, he has to be almost a coach. If he's a leader of that team, he almost has to help with the progression of Melvin Gordon. I mean, he was brought in there. How many years have we been saying Rivers needs help? He needs a run game. He needs an offensive line. Well, here it is. Here's your run game. We've got Melvin Gordon, Danny Woodhead, we got Brandon Oliver, and we got some running back that we pay a ton of money to that God knows why we're keeping him. So basically, right, we got Brown, right?
Right.
We got him for no reason. So we got 4 running backs. And if you're looking at it on paper, you're like, wow, this is a running offense. Or it should be at some level, and it just isn't. At what point do we run the ball?
I think we.
I don't want to run the ball if we're getting stuffed and it's not working. By all means, pass it. Rivers is the best option if the run game isn't working, but we don't even try. I mean, 15 touches at the very most for a first-round draft pick. I
really do think that if we were if we had a little bit more success, they would be running the ball. And I think that's what the problem is we can't consistently, get get yards on first and second down running the ball. And, after a while, it is really tough to start converting those 3rd and 12s. And if you go over the first, few games this year, you'll notice that, Gordon does have a few good runs and Woodhead has a few good runs. But ultimately, it seems like we're either getting 7 yards or -2. And at the end of the game, you look at the stats and you go, oh, well, he ran the ball for 4 or 5 yards a carry. But ultimately, there's way too many, -2s, -1s, or just 1-yard gains mixed in there. And I think that we need to have a consistent offensive line. And I do think that if Rivers is oddballing out of runs to passes, he's not doing it because he's selfish. He's doing it because there's no way this run is going to work. We need to throw the ball here, and
okay.
I just
so
think
those third and longs, right, that you're talking about. So in a lot of those situations, there's just these short screen passes to Woodhead. I mean, they're almost like 2 or 3 yard passes, and then Woodhead is supposed to make up the extra 12, 13 yards, and it just, it's ridiculous. So all these third and long situations this season seem like they've come from the Chargers basically shooting themselves in the foot with all these crazy penalties, right?
Yes.
So how much of those penalties fall on the quarterback where you're running the play clock down to the final moment, you're calling audibles in a noisy, hostile environment?
At home.
I feel for Rivers this last game. You know what I mean? I hate being critical of him when you play at home and the fans just let you down. So I'm not going to even get into that. But when you're in an away game and it's loud, I hate that there are so many audibles. There are so many of them that wait until 5 seconds are left. If you wait that long to snap the ball, what's likely to happen? I think one of two things are going to happen when you call too many audibles. One, you're going to get miscommunication between you and the receivers and possibly even the O-line, or the O-line is going to flinch because you're waiting so long. That game against the Browns where he just went up, it was the only game this season where Rivers walked up calmly. This was a home game, and it was pretty quiet for him, so he was able to call audibles early. Everybody heard it, and they just snapped the ball, and everything was just so smooth and just it flowed. But these games where it's noisy and you're going to have, it just doesn't work. It doesn't work every single down. At some point, you're just going to have to trust your teammates to be able to outplay the guy in front of them with the original call. Just run the play.
So
waiting for 2 seconds to snap the ball, I don't get it. I just think it creates all these false starts.
I think that I agree with you and I disagree with you. I disagree because I think that he does need to make adjustments on the protection and all of those things, and that's necessary. However, I do think that they need to 5, 6, 7 times a day he needs to walk up there and just snap the ball, because you're right, when you take it down to under 5 seconds every time before you're snapping the ball, the defense knows exactly when you're going to snap it, and there's no surprise
I agree.
at all.
It's a disadvantage.
But
they know that the defense knows that clock just as well as the quarterback does.
But if he were to get up there and just run the play just every once in a while, get up there and say, this play favors us. I don't need to adjust it. Let's just go snap the ball with 15 seconds left. You got to do that every once in a while to keep the defense on their toes.
Well, and here's the thing, too, Hal. You got to think about this, and Jason, both of you guys, is that, Rivers can only call the plays as fast as they're coming in from Frank Reich. If Frank Reich is taking his sweet-ass time to come in with the play, that gives Phillip Rivers less time to make that audible adjustment if he sees a bad matchup coverage-wise in the secondary or whatnot. It gives him less time to make that audible adjustment. And the second thing is, alluding to what you said, Hal, is that the fact that when we run it down to 5 seconds or less, advantage defense. Because guess what? They know you got to hike the ball any second now, and they're going to get the jump on it, and it's going to put us in a bad situation every time. And so, like Jason says, we need to change it up every now and then. whether it's the right call or not, I think we do need to snap the ball early in some of these counts and keep the defense honest, because if not, they're just going to, put themselves on a track, and they're going to beat the offensive line every single time because they're going to have the advantage. They're going to see it, go 2-1. He hasn't hiked the ball. Go. You know what I mean? And they're going to have the advantage every time.
Yeah, I just don't see how it's a hurry-up offense if you're, spending 30 seconds waiting to snap the ball. Get up there. Everyone get up on the line. Call the play. And I understand I get how intelligent and high, his football IQ. I understand how high it is because you hear it from around the league, from people that know the game much better than I do, how smart he is. But there's just these little things about Rivers that I think hold him back from becoming the quarterback that he's capable of being. And I don't criticize him because I want to see him fail. I criticize him because I want to see him become a better player. I want to see him get over the hump and become that elite Super Bowl winning, quarterback that he's totally capable. But I just think jawing with the players every play is a disadvantage. I just don't understand how getting fired up is an advantage. I think it loses his focus. I also think it fuels fire for the defense to come headhunt for you. I think when you jaw with the defense, they want to get to you a lot more than if you just played the game. Just went up there, let things happen, get back to the line, call the plays, focus on your teammates, and play football. I want a defensive guy or jawing. You know what I mean? I want a running back jawing. I really don't want my quarterback trash talking, especially that much. I get it occasionally. Emotions run high. It's a physical game. But my God, at some point, just play the game. You don't have anything to prove to anybody other than the guys on your team that you can do it and you can allow them to help you do it. I just think there's that emotion that he shows is just it gets in the way of him being able to get over the top and become the quarterback everybody says that he is. 8-8 for the last 5 years, that's not elite. It just isn't. And, those stats he puts up, they're great, but it's not going to get you a Super Bowl. It just isn't when you're 8-8 every year. And those two last playoffs we got into, guess what we did? We backed into those. We weren't dominant. Right. We didn't earn those playoff positions. We backed in. One year we were 8-8 when we got into a playoff game. That's just 9-2. What was the other one? 9-7?
Yeah.
Yeah. When you go into the playoffs 9-7, 8-8, I just don't think anyone thinks. Yeah, I get it. Football, anything can happen, but we're better than that. We just are. It drives me absolutely mad. That offense needs to be better than the defense. That offense was designed to outscore the other team. Can't expect the defense to win the games for you, not with the personnel they have on that field. I just, at some point you just got to be the quarterback. Yep. You got to be the guy that you can be. You got to be the player that everyone says you are, but I just think his emotions and all that drama in between it just holds him back.
Well,
I know a lot of people love it. I just don't.
I love the point that you made about the defense and how you're right. This team was built to have the offense carry it, and the defense was just supposed to do their job. And I think that expecting the defense to win games for us is too much. And I hadn't really thought of it like that before until you brought that up. So I love that. I love that idea. I think it's a wonderful take. And we're going to let you go. We're running up right against 2 hours right now, so we're going to end the show. But I really would hope that that you join us Sunday morning between 9 and 10, either in the chat room or call during the last segment and give your predictions on what's going to happen in Green Bay.
I'll see you guys Sunday. Thanks for letting me vent. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, Hal. We appreciate your time.
Thanks a lot, Hal.
Good night, guys.
Good night.
So, wow.
So a little bit of technical difficulties, but I think we got through it pretty well.
I'm going to tell you what. the technical difficulties were not my fault.
Bullshit.
We were
Jason.
just sitting
Excuses.
We were just sitting here, and the whole thing went tits up. I didn't do nothing.
It did.
And it took us a while to figure out what was wrong, so we do
Somebody
apologize.
put the black bag over your head, and you couldn't see where you're going.
Yeah, we got like the white screen of death. This is the first time we've used this new app, and it's been a little bit buggy, but I think in the future it's going to work better. You know, I look forward to talking about the Chargers victory. I love our Sunday morning shows. It's a lot of fun, and I look forward to seeing you Sunday, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Every Sunday morning between 9 and 10 a.m., we're going to break down, the Chargers' current matchup. This week it's going to be Green Bay. It's a late start, about 1:25, so we hope you can join us there. I want to thank Jake Hefner from ProFootballSpot.com for calling in the show and giving us his take. We want to thank Hal for, giving a call in as well and giving us his take. Darren in the chat room, Josh Hill. There was a sighting from George in the chat room, SoCal Trav, all of you guys. We appreciate every time you give us your input. We're a show for fans.
By the fans.
We're going to close this thing up, but we'll be back Sunday morning between 9 and 10 for our pregame show, Chargers versus Green Bay. Be there. We'll see you then.
Thank you for listening to the San Diego Sports Junkies, a show for fans by the fans. Brought to you by Cali Comfort, home of the low and slow barbecue, and SK Digital Imaging with Josh Taylor, Justin Smead, Jason Eidsmoe, and Mike Maciejewski. Subscribe to us on iHeartRadio, on Spreaker, and on iTunes. Visit SanDiegoSportsJunkies.com for all your Chargers, Padres, and Aztecs news.